We did have a little technical difficulty at the end, but if you're listening on audio, should be no problem. Enjoy. Hello, Matt.
Rick.
How was your Christmas, buddy?
It's fantastic.
Actually, we haven't talked at all. So yeah.
This is legit. Just walked right in and podcasted it.
I know. Well, that's the way we do it. So 3 little girls, man, must have been awesome. What'd they get?
Oh, let's see. They got, any kind of horse thing possible.
Yeah.
Horses. I built them a basketball hoop.
Horse life.
That was cool. Got them out there.
Oh, yeah. How'd you do that? Because you were going to hide it.
Yeah, luckily I have a really good hiding space around the side of my house.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't get one of the mega hoops either. I wanted to, but I was like, you know what? They're like 9 and 7, and they may never play
Let's see if they like it, right?
Right. I was like, for me personally, I was like, I'd get the $800 crazy.
$800.
I didn't do
concreted in the ground.
It was literally small enough I could just pick it up.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so I dragged it out, and it was great, man. It was, can't beat having Christmas with little kids.
Yeah, 100%. I'm jealous of that because, at my age, it's like I'm the earliest one up now. Kids come down, they're like, hey. Yeah. I only have Ann. My son's underwater somewhere, so we missed the whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Down on the sub. When was the last time you talked to him?
I think he left sometime in October, which means maybe not. Yeah. I think he'll be back in February, maybe. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know when he's leaving. He can't tell us. It's top secret. So he can't tell us when he's leaving. Can't tell us when he's coming back.
That's wild. I mean, I can tell I'm turning into my father every day. Like I started watching World War II in color on Netflix. I'm like really getting into it.
I know. I can't even watch a fun show anymore. I'm like, let's watch a documentary. Andrew's like, I did watch Dope Sick though.
What's that one?
You haven't seen that? Oh, dude, you've got to watch it. It's basically it's a docu-series, is that what they call it? Where it's like they have actors, but it's based on a true story.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, historically accurate. So Michael Keaton is in it, and a couple of other actors that you would recognize their faces, but I don't know their names.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it was the story of the birth of the opioid crisis and the Sackler family, which owned Purdue Pharma. I tell you what, man, you watch it, and then by the end, you see how the higher up the chain you get when, say, that the prosecutors were going after the Sackler family, and they're out of Connecticut, going after them regarding the opioid crisis and what they did to manipulate the data to make it look like it was non-addictive. It was ridiculous, and it was like the highest levels of the FDA. So the guy who approved the label that said only less than 1% of people get addicted was literally 2 years after he approved the label working for Purdue Pharma for like $500K plus bonuses and stuff. So it's like the very guy that approved it's now working there. And so that's kind of the construct of the way things work, even all the way up to the prosecutor meeting her hero, which at the time was Rudy Giuliani, and him saying, hey, it's really great to meet you. You're the one that's working on the Sackler case, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, cool. And he's like, well, listen, I'd love to meet with you sometime. And she's like, all right, well, I'd love, just say when. I'll come into town for lunch or whatever. He's like, well, let's talk now. And then, of course, immediately he launches into it's probably not what you think it is. You might want to consider. And he's trying to talk her out of it. And you could just see it on her face, like, oh, no, never meet your heroes. Him, too.
Jeez.
But I'll tell you what.
Conspiracy theorists are going crazy on that one.
Well, there's no conspiracy theory. This is factual, right? So when you watch it and then you're at the end of it and then you're like, oh, no. I mean, it just gives you that gut sinking feeling, especially what's going on now with Big Pharma and everything. I was just like, and we're supposed to believe there's zero fuckery going on right now. When they historically, 20 years later, look back and basically they're killing people knowingly and claiming that they're not. It's like, oh, my God. So I found it, and it was the way they did it, though, honestly, just from an entertainment value as well. It was like a suspense thriller, So
Sweet.
Check it out. It's on Hulu. It's called Dope Sick.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's a baller.
Yeah, dude, he was great in this. He was a small town Appalachian doctor who also got hooked on opioids. And they even did the sales team. The guy that came out and called on him, you remember Kenny from Meet the Millers? The guy who got bit on the nads by the spider? He was the sales guy. He was really good. And he was coming in and they were teaching the sales guys these scripts and the thing, you have to say these things. And the salespeople maybe knew that it was BS, but they were just kind of they wanted to believe that it wasn't because they were making so much money.
Sure.
So anyway, it's just the interesting, the human element and the dirty underbelly of the financial side, and dude, just crazy. And the Sacklers got off with they bankrupted Purdue Pharma eventually, but the Sacklers got off with, I think it was $15 billion or something. So they didn't go to jail, no jail time, no nothing.
They got off with $15 billion. What do you mean?
No, they got off at the end of it. They walked away with $15 billion in zero liabilities criminally.
Oh, it's nice for them. Jesus.
Yeah. Funny how that works. Huh?
Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway,
What are we doing today?
I'm gonna ask you questions today. That's what we're gonna do. So today's podcast, you guys, we're gonna flip the script. Matt's gonna do the bulk of talking. We'll see how this works out. He's a little hungover from his holiday.
Did you see like your lines to mine? I don't think anybody can hear me on this.
That's volume, baby. That's because I push it out through my diaphragm. Yeah. You talk like a field mouse. I give it up like a boss. So you got to speak.
What day
Sound
is it?
off like you got a pair, Matt.
What
Come on.
day is it?
There you go. So yeah, today you guys, I'm going to ask Matt questions, and I'd like to ask you questions about programming because these are common questions that I get from candidates or just people in the industry like, hey, what do you use for this? Or what are your ideas on this or that? So I figured, why not go to the source, the guy that builds programs for thousands of gyms worldwide?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So let's start with the most important question. Is the word butt cheeks one word, or should they be separated?
What? Isn't it supposed to be separated?
I don't know. You're supposed to separate butt cheeks or not? Can you believe they're still together?
Is this really what we're doing?
Can you believe they're still together after all the crap they've been through? And you're supposed to say, who? And I go, your butt cheeks.
You've been sitting home writing dad jokes?
It's been awesome. 2021, every podcast will begin with a simple dad joke. How about that?
Oh my God.
It'll be perfect. And if you know it, you can't answer it. That ruins it for the listening audience.
I'm just going to walk out.
Question number 1. It's still the holidays, you guys, so excuse some of the ridiculousness, but we're going to get to this thing right now. So,
all right.
Matt, and I didn't prep him at all, so if it goes off the rails, I'm always here to save Matt with excessive talking. So just keep that in mind. Don't worry. Don't fret. Matt, what's the number one goal for our customer avatar, would you say, based on your experience, not only as the head of programming, but before that, you sat in the seat of the director, which is the person that talks to everyone about their goals. So what's the number one goal, you think?
Number one goal of like the clients coming in to see us?
Correct.
Oh, it's easy. It's weight loss.
Is it really weight loss?
I mean, that's what they tell us, right?
Well, what do you think? Like long term, because you get to see them not only at the start, but like where, like down the road. What do you think ultimately?
All right, well, here's the deal. Everybody comes in with a goal of weight loss. Well, not everybody, but the majority, right? We're working with, general population folks. They want goal of weight loss. When they get here, we do a really good job of peeling the onion and learning about them, educating them. By the time we're done with our initial starting point session, probably reframe their thinking to like, hey, I just need to do this to move better, feel better, and enjoy my life. So it came in as a goal of weight loss, which is still there. It's not like we're not helping them. We reframe the expectations so that they enjoy their journey a little bit more than just coming in like, oh, I got to work out to lose weight kind of stuff.
How do you?
Yes and no.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes and no. How do you describe that? I like that term, peeling the onion. I've heard you use that before. We've used it a lot. So what does that mean to you? Like if you're peeling the onion with someone with a new client, let's say they come in and let me reframe the question. Sorry. I come in, you go like, hey, what you doing here? I'm like, hey, I just need to lose weight. And then you say it, okay. And then your answer, okay, you peel the onion and you get down to the nitty gritty. And sometimes it's something else. So how do you do that exactly?
Well, this is honestly something we do with pretty much all our conversations, even before they walk in our door, right? It's peeling the onion just really means that we ask enough follow-up questions to really dig in and find really what they're here for, like why they come in the door. And that's why I say that yes and no on weight loss, right? Everybody comes in, their goal is weight loss. But when you start peeling that onion back, you kind of find out like how they got to that point. And it a lot of times could be injuries or family issues. And then from there, we can then try to find out a real passionate goal. Like a lot of times what happens, people, maybe they gain weight because of an injury and they used to be a heavy runner or cyclists or something along those lines. Then we can get back to like, oh, great, we're going to help you get back to cycling, which in turn will help you lose weight, which is a much more impactful goal. And how you do that is by peeling the onion, right? Asking those WH questions, why, when, who's, which, kind of those things.
How far do you go with that, would you say? Like when you're asking those questions, do you just go till you feel like you run out, or is there a way for you to know when you've reached that core of the onion?
When they just start crying, bawling in tears.
Well, I'm laughing about that, but that used to be an ongoing joke here because, I think we were, at one point when we first discovered like, hey, don't take the initial goal for its for its surface value, like dig in a little bit, we would get people to that point. So,
yeah. I mean, you definitely, we've talked about our starting point session and how it's built. It's going to be different on every person, right? I mean, some people walk in and they're just not going to be real talkative out of the gate. So there's a little bit of reading the situation and reading who's in front of you. If you got some dude that's like, me sitting in front of you, it's going to be real short answers. And you're just like, okay, great. And then just move on to get them moving, get them happy, get them talking later.
So there's some skill based on what you're saying in like learning a little bit of body language and just sort of how to, like communication skills are key.
Learn how to talk to people, right?
Right.
Takes time.
Well, and really learn how to ask questions. This is something that we try to teach based on what you had done here and learned is we try to teach to ask more questions. And there's an old adage in sales, which there's some gamesmanship around any sales, right? That the person that's talking is losing. And so if you're just talking about all the great things that your company does, it's really not about you. It's personal training, especially in this brand, any brand, I would say, if you're selling someone a car or whatever that is. But I think just asking as many questions as you can until you get down to the core of why they're there is key. And I think it's the most caring way to do it. And then coincidentally gives you the best probability of closing the sale or getting that person some help.
Yeah. I mean, for sales, it's 100%. We try to do this all the time, though. I mean, it's one of our, things we hang our hat on is a true interest in other people, right? So if you actually are that person, I'm going to ask those questions because you actually care and want to learn about them. And that goes their whole time in the club, right? You're constantly like, hey, Rick, what you do this weekend, man? Just let's, finding out about them.
Right.
And that's how you build those long-term relationships.
Well, and I've heard you describe that to me as like, listen, you need when we talk about coaches having a passion, the passion shouldn't be necessarily for a certain way to do things. It should be for helping people. I've heard you say that in 50 different ways, right? Like that's where your passion should be. And then whatever vehicle can get them there is important. But the vehicle's not the passion, right? It's like the trainer that loves kettlebells and opens a kettlebell gym so they can spread their passion on kettlebells. And when you zoom out a little bit and you've been doing it as long as you have, you've come to realize and then, communicated back to me that the real passion should be for helping the people right in front of you by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, as Alloy, we provide a great vehicle to do that. But the passion has to be that. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
I shouldn't ask you that. You've told it. You've said it to me 500 times.
Do you agree?
Do you agree with what you said, Matt?
Concur?
Are you going back on that?
Well, I mean, I learned that, years and years ago. I mean, the first day I walked in the door and just you see the culture of this place, and how it still is. It's literally a bunch of people just hanging out and having a good time. And yes, there's a workout going on, but that's not why people show up, right? It's those relationships. We've heard it. I mean, we heard it the other day from another big name in the industry, Mike Boyle, right? Yep. Literally talking about the same thing. It's like, it's not getting hot and sweaty and stuff. It's coming in, having a relationship, seeing your friends. That's why people come in the door.
And there's some accountability.
Absolutely. Right? Accountability.
You need to do it. And I think he even addressed what you're saying because you sent me the video where like weight loss is the goal, but it's not the only goal. Like weight loss might get them there, right? And so that maybe speaks to like, okay, in your advertising, you're probably going to put something in there that touches their highest level goal because you can't peel the onion in an ad. But when they come in, like that's when you peel the onion and get down to the nitty gritty. And a lot of that's going to have to do with the connection and the bond that they have, not only with you and the facility, but the other clients. And there's ways that we can get into in this conversation that you build the programs that aren't just X's and O's about workouts, but they're there to I guess create those bonds, right? And to keep them
bonds,
there.
And it creates opportunities just based on the flow and how things are set up. I mean, we set it up to be efficient where you can run the workout. We're really think of it as background noise to what's going on. Yes, there's a system. It's easy to follow. Everybody can do it. And then it gives you the opportunity to have relationships, hang out with people, learn how, have fun, right? It's awesome to be a trainer.
Well, it goes back to the question I get often from franchise candidates or people in the industry, which is how long are your sessions? And I look back at the times when we used to sell people time, but that was in a one-on-one setting. So you can almost handle that there. Not a great business model. But when we moved into this group setting where we're doing, 6 people with one coach, still making it personal training, you need margin in that hour, right? So we set aside an hour, but how long does the workout take? It's individual for the person. So we'll say 40 to 50 minutes, something like that, sometimes longer. I don't know. Are you tired? Do you feel good that day? Like, are you a beginner? Are you advanced? Are you in a hurry to get out of there that day? All those things factor in just like they should to make it very personal. But the construct of the session gives you, like you said, the margin and the ability to do what the most important thing is, which is to build those relationships, right?
Yeah.
So they come in for weight loss, but then we peel the onion and get down to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Peel the onion, find them a more really what they passionate about and want to achieve. And guess what? If you're working out and eating right and eating for a more of a, say, a purpose for you, like performance based, just say, for example, if I want to, if I know I got to eat better to get stronger, build muscle, also help me with my rides outside of working out, weight loss is going to go with that, right? And it's not
like a byproduct of the bigger goal.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's
well, and aesthetic goals, as we know, and we've been in this industry long enough to know, like, we're not training bikini competitors here. We could, but we don't. Same thing with bodybuilders or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's sort of this moving target always, right? It's like you never look good enough. Your body fat's never low enough. You're on this up and down, like off season, in season. You're fat and then you're lean, and you're fat and then you're lean. And I'm using these terms through the lens of the individual and speaking it back to us.
So it's a definite roller coaster, right? I mean, it's up and down. I mean, you posted a picture the other day of a member that's been here for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Like, are you going to keep somebody as the peak physical, condition for 30 years? Absolutely not.
Well, yeah, that was a shout out to Sharon Morris, who's been here 30 years, and we've got a pretty good stable of, like, I call them long haulers here.
Yeah.
They got long alloy, kind of like long COVID, but different. But they've been here for 30 plus years, or some 25, some 20, but I mean, just
why do they stay? Is it the workouts?
It's not.
That have changed.
I mean, think about how many ups and downs you go through in your life, not only physically, but mentally, family structure. I mean, you have loss, you have joy, you have all these things that happen. And like, we're this steady, unwavering thing in their life that holds them accountable. And obviously, we've even had staff turnover.
Sure.
We keep people longer than most, but it just happens. It's
30
nature
years,
of the beast.
dude. And how many times have you changed the business model in 30 years?
Right. It's funny because people hate change, and we get a lot of complaints when we change things.
Right.
But I think, and I'm not saying this is a pat on the back to us, but I think I look at it through my lens. If I was a consumer, I think the change, as painful as it can be for everyone when it's happening, is part of the reason why we still have people here 30 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, because, they adjust, and we always joke about it. I mean, my now business partner, Suzanne Robb, who obviously she's our COO. I think Matt knows who she is. But for anyone listening, I've had her on the podcast too. She kind of stays behind the scenes, but is an absolute baller. And she always is the most direct, call it like it is person I've met. Just brutal honesty. And I love it. And I remember one time, because she's been a client here before she ever started working with us, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember we were going from one-on-one to small groups. And she was actually in a de facto small group already because she worked out with a couple of friends. And I asked her, hey, I'm going to go to this. We had this script, right, to go from one-on-one to small group, which is like, you had good relationships with clients. So you would say, hey, do me a favor. And, and then there had to be a why, like, what's in it for me? So I'll start explaining it. She's like, look. She's like, don't even bother telling me. She's like, I go, why? She's like, because I know I'm going to hate it, and then I'm going to end up liking it, just like every other change we've made. So just make the change and quit talking about it. And I was like, oh, I love her, And
I
that was
before
before
saying that.
Well, exactly. And that was before we were even working together. But how much clarity is in that message? It's like, just get on with it, because every time you do it, I don't like it, and then I end up loving it. So probably our core value of drive change has actually kept people that long, even though when you're making that change, it seems very painful, and people don't like change. So the feedback is going to be that they don't like it. Mm-hmm. We've gone through, like, agents of change, and how you can't have change without loss, and you can't have loss without pain. You can't have pain without grief. And so sometimes what sounds like negative feedback is them grieving the loss of what they had before, even if it was just a time slot, or the fact that they had you on their own, or maybe even something they didn't like, because we were actually reducing pricing for people. Right. Typically, when we're going from one-on-one to this, and they were still not happy. So it's like, it's because they're grieving just any kind of change, because change comes with, loss with pain with grief, that kind of idea. So, all right. So number one goal for our avatar is weight loss. And then we peel the onion, and it's usually something deeper than weight loss, tied to or not. What's the frequency that we recommend for people to come into this facility, or our alloy facilities? 2 to 3 times a week.
Optimally 3 times. Try to get everybody. If it's, scheduling wise, we'd give 2. Very rarely do we have anybody come in more or less than 2 times a week.
Yeah. And is it, because I remember, geez, it's so funny. Like, I'm talking to you now, like we've never had these conversations, but quite honestly, we spend a bunch of our time on business related things. So to dig into the actual workouts is kind of fun to get back to that. So is the message still 2 is enough and 3 is ideal?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, that's what you set up, and it still works. I mean, we talked about this in our podcast of literally like what is optimal health and what you should be doing. And we literally fit right into that, right? It was 2 to 3 days of strength training. We're going to get our clients, moving as much as possible outside the doors, walking, things like that. And then maybe perhaps down the road, we can look at adding in some more like interval type of conditioning. And that's it. And I mean, it's palatable, it's doable. And that's our goal, right? You get somebody comes in and we want them to be successful.
Well, back to the retention, 30 years. You don't get 30 years by doing a 6-week challenge that murders you.
It kills you. You got to work out 6 days a week. It just doesn't happen.
Moves the needle a little bit. Doesn't teach you anything about how to create sustaining lifelong changes.
That's important, and then we talk about going back, peeling the onion, stuff like it's reframing expectations is a lot of what we do. You got because people have so much misinformation or ideas that they think they should be doing. It's like, whoa. We're not going to have to, you don't have to work out 7 days a week. You don't have to change out everything you're singly eating. What's bringing up is just start you out 2 to 3 days of strength training. We're going to get you moving a little bit better. We're going to work on nutrition. We'll hit on certain things. Maybe we'll get a little more protein in your diet. Just by doing that alone, people have huge changes in just their body composition, how they feel, energy-wise. They can do all their activities. Doesn't have to be crazy, which is huge because that's what people come in. A lot of times they're like, oh, it's brutally like I'm frustrated, gonna go nuts. I got to work out 7 days a week,
blow up my whole life,
and then I fail after a week.
Well, and the science of habit change, we know for a fact, if you go with like change your eating, start working out 6 days a week and all that, you're going to fail. It's too much. Yeah. It's too much change. I mean, the master of that was John Berardi when Precision Nutrition. I mean, it was just painfully slow change, but the data showed that it would be stickier and they would actually get there in the long run. And so you got to be patient a little bit too. So I think it goes back to your term that you just used, reframing expectations when people come in. So, well, and you already answered my next question. So it was frequency of workouts here, which is 2 to 3 days a week, and that's mainly strength-based, right? And then we're prescribing more movement outside the gym. So low level, like walk 30 minutes a day, whatever that is. And maybe 1 day a week, get your heart rate up high. It's in an interval-based training, but only once a week. So it's not like, again, I just posted a great article that you read about HIIT training, and HIIT is not at all what it's intended to be because it puts you in no man's land. It's like it's too difficult to really be considered a sustainable amount of cardio, and it's not difficult enough to produce what the claims of HIIT are, the science shows, and you're actually lifting. If there's lifting involved, which a lot of these sort of franchise class-based concepts are, you're not lifting enough load to get the true benefits of strength training. So you're just like getting sweaty. Hell, there was even something in the article about getting sweaty. Like you can sit in your car and sweat. That doesn't mean you're getting a good workout, right? You can be cold outside. You can not sweat at all and burn a lot more calories. So I don't know. There's just a lot of misconceptions. And I think you do a good job of building programs that speak to that and also teaching our franchisees and our whole community how to address those things.
I mean, how would you like it if you came in and be like, look, Rick, we're going to get you in 3 days a week for strength training. We're going to give you everything you need every time you walk in the door. Can you do that for me? All you literally have to do is show up.
Yeah.
Is that tough? You could probably do that, right?
Fair enough. Well, and how many times have it's fun. It's so encouraging when a client speaks back to you what you hope that your message is to them.
Right.
So I've had people come in and they go, you know what I love about this place is that I just put my keys down and you guys handle everything else. How cool is that? And that means and of course, behind the scenes, we'll talk more about programming, but so our overall prescription, you already answered. I get this question a lot. So, okay, they're getting here 2 to 3 days a week. What happens during a session? So just overall, like somebody's in here, like you said, you told me just now, get here 3 days a week, we'll handle everything. What does that mean? What's happening in an alloy session?
I mean, literally, a lot.
Yeah, break it down. I mean, just high level stuff.
High level, we coming in, everybody's going to get some, movement prep stuff, some dynamic warm up, right? So we're going to hit some.
Would that be
soft tissue work? Right.
Would that be considered like, and I'm air quoting for those of you guys listening, is that like flexibility? Is that where that fits in?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call it that, it's a little bit of flexibility, mobility, break up some tissue, get you feeling better. It's not exceptionally long because we know just from, doing it for a long time, people won't stick around or they'll start showing up late. So just enough. I mean, I think go back to Mike Boyle. We talked about it. He's like, people aren't coming in to just stretch. They do want to work out and get a little hot and sweaty. I mean, there is a emotional and response, right? So,
and if you double down too hard on that, what you're saying is that, like, again, like go to yoga, or they're not expecting that when they're coming in for a personal training session. They don't expect to spend the entire time like alligator breathing or doing some ridiculous, exercises. It's like, let's get to the good stuff. And again, I'm air quoting.
We do enough to get them moving, and then we get into our sessions. Our sessions, like you mentioned earlier, like, can last anywhere from 45, 50 minutes typically, and that's including the warm up. We're going to train your whole body, like
full body training.
Full body every single time.
Why full body training before we move on from that?
Well, again, if we're talking about, like being able to consistently do this day in and day out, we don't have time to do body part splits. Slash, we're battling people on their schedules, right? They're fitting in time for us. Like, I don't need to like ask them to come in 5 days a week so I can do leg day and back day and,
Well, I always laugh when, and sometimes you'll see this at the big commercial gyms, and it's sort of like if all you have is a hammer, everyone's a nail, where you might see like a fitness girl or a bodybuilder guy.
Right.
And they're working with someone who's not them, who's maybe overweight, a little bit older, not in shape at all. And they're doing like 30 minutes of just arm work. And there's so little energy expenditure that comes with arm work. They'd be better served to do full body training, because you're going to get the strength training benefits.
Right.
But you're also going to work your whole body, which is just more effective and more efficient.
Well, it's working smarter, not harder, right? We're trying to get somebody that wants to be able to do what they want to do, whether it's play tennis or golf or grandkids. Slash, they want to lose weight. You don't want to waste your time just doing arms, right?
Well, it's funny when we go here, because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, good for them, but not good for me. But what's interesting is like, I'm pretty fit certainly for my age.
How old are you?
52.
Damn.
225, 8.5% body fat. It's like,
woo!
Look, I do full body training. I do basically alloy programming. I just go every other day. That's it. Now, that's more than 2 days a week because I'm more fit and I like to work out a lot. Every other day. I got a buddy in the industry, Hermosi, right? He's jacked as all get out. He's ginormous. And he's like, yeah, the only way I grow is I just do full body every day. And that flies in the face of all recovery and arm days and all that. But he's like, I just crush full body every day. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So you guys are more like a fanatic. So just keep that in mind.
Well, I know. And I'm not saying it's like alloy programming, but I'm just trying to support the notion of full body training and the fact that if you do already exercise or whatever, that you somehow or have been convinced in the past that you need some kind of a body part split. And there's not a lot of evidence to back that up.
Well, you actually get, if you just want to go down there, you're probably getting less volume by doing body part splits than you would in a full body a week. So, there is that. And what we do really well is we have our fundamentals of like our program design and how it is. But it's what we really teach here is how to apply that to a person and take their goals and everything into consideration. So just take you, for example, you probably want to get a little bit more bigger chest, bigger arms for a lot of times, right? Do extra stuff. Well, we can still do that within our sessions, right? Okay. We can give you what you need, and we can give you a little extra what you want, right? So they do leave getting what that good feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of like the what do you program in like time for like emotional exercises. It's like, okay, if you're working with a guy, you hate to bucket folks, but like they're probably going to want more arm training, than maybe the female population who might want to do more core or glutes or whatever that is. Now, it's not always, but rarely do we have a guy at the end of the sessions like, hey, can I do some more glutes, or like, rarely do we have a female that's like, hey, I want to get my arms really big. Now, everybody wants these, of course, I'm air quoting again, tone or whatever these silly words are, but that's the consumer's terms. Everybody wants that, but there is room in the way that you build the programs for that little specialty extra stuff that makes it personal training, right?
Sure. Yeah, the programs are built, right? So we're going to give you full body. They're balanced in a way that we're not going to jack you up and get you in crazy, mobility issues, asymmetries. I don't know, like the...
Only work the mirror muscles?
Only work the mirror muscles, and you only do chest, so your arms are wrapped around you. Like, we're not doing that. So we're going to feel confident that you're balanced. Just behind the scenes, the workouts are built to a way that be efficient, that can be run where everybody gets to use the tools. I don't know if you've ever trained, 6+ people, and if you're not prepared and not thought about it, you're going to run out of equipment. Everything's set up for you in our system, so you're not going to run out of equipment, which is nice. So the ability to move 2 people at a time to different spots, work their whole body. Okay. We also always do core every single workout, right? Everybody asks about core. It's in there, right? Not to mention like we do what functional strength training, which pretty much relies around your core, every single thing we do. Okay. And we always do that. Then we work into what we call our metabolic finishers. We get that little bit of HIIT training in there, which plays on multiple levels. It's going to get people hot and sweaty. Okay, which is a good because, they have that emotional response. We want that. We always feel good. We're sweating, even though
you're leaving them with that
Right.
perceived exertion high.
Even though we know that it's, may not be, sweating is not the indicator of, a true good workout, but it still feels good. I mean, I like to sweat. It feels good. But it also helps us lead into what kind of, managing expectations and giving them the most effect in one workout, right? So you can leave like, hey, Rick, if you bust your butt on this bike, we're going to do, say, a Tabata, 20-10. If you go all out, you're going to be burning calories at a higher rate all the way till you come back, right? That gets people away from that expectation where they just got to do treadmill run on the all day for 2 hours, 7 days a week kind of stuff.
Right.
And then we always finish, we just talked on a little bit of what we call those emotional exercises. And this is our opportunity to give the client, say, exactly what they want, whether they wanted to work on their arms some more, or work on their glutes, or whatever it is. Maybe they want more conditioning. We can do that. So every session, the client's leaving getting that good feeling, I got a good workout, I got a good arm pump.
Right. We joke about often, we've talked about, I got my money's worth. There's some people will say that, and there's something to that. It's like,
Sure.
Okay, so some of our workouts are more scientific, or they're very scientific, and some of them are more strength based, which means you're going to get a little more rest, right? So you're not going to get the hot, sweaty. And even though, like, we're talking about the science here not being hot and sweaty, there is an emotional response to hot and sweaty. So the whole key here in the balance, and you've said it before, is like you give them what they need while also giving them what they want. That's the key.